They found the cause of the most destructive wildfire in Georgia history. It was a birthday balloon, not a lightning strike, not a downed power line, not an arsonist. A metallic foil balloon, the kind with the shiny coating that floats at 6-year-old birthday parties, drifted into a live power line in Brantley County, Georgia, created an electrical arc, and set the ground on fire. In 9 days, that balloon burned 87 homes to the ground. It burned 22,000 acres of pine forest. It displaced thousands of families, overwhelmed an entire county's emergency system, and produced a smoke plume visible from Atlanta, 300 miles away. And the ground that balloon ignited? It was ready to burn. It had been ready to burn for 18 months. Nobody told the people living on it, stay with me. Because the birthday balloon is not the story. The balloon is only the spark. The story is what was waiting underneath it, built quietly over 18 months across 91 counties, across 2 states, across a region now recording its driest conditions since the year 1895. Yes, 1895. There are numbers inside this disaster that the press conferences have not highlighted. There's a measurement called the KBDI, a drought index used by fire scientists, that tells you exactly how close a forest is to igniting. In South Georgia right now, that number is approaching 700. The scale only goes to 800. And above 700, fire scientists stop using the word dangerous and start using a different word entirely. We are going to go through all of it. Let us start with exactly what happened. Monday, April 20th, 2026. Brantley County, Georgia. A rural county of 19,000 people, roughly midway between Georgia's coastline and the Okefenokee Swamp. Thick planted pines, livestock farms, flatland threaded through with swamp and creek. Sometime that afternoon, a foil balloon, the kind coated with metallic aluminum film that conducts electricity, drifted into a live power transmission line. The contact created an electrical arc. The arc dropped sparks onto the ground below. Georgia Forestry Commission Director Johnny Sabo confirmed it publicly. The Brantley fire was absolutely caused by a kid's party balloon that has the aluminum look to it. It landed on a power line, caused a spark, and that's what caused this wildfire. That has been determined. WTOC-TV, the fire started small. It was reported at 600 acres. By Tuesday afternoon, it was unrecognizable. The fire basically doubled last night in size, Brantley County Manager Joey Kaysen announced on Sunday in a Facebook post. It is a dynamic fire event that will be impacted by the wind. NPR. It had not doubled once. It had doubled repeatedly. In 9 days, 600 acres became 22,715 acres, a burn scar larger than Manhattan. And here's the number that defines this disaster. At least 87 homes destroyed in the communities of Atkinson and Waynesville, more homes lost to a single wildfire than at any moment in the recorded history of Georgia. Wildfire Explorer, a state that has existed since 1788. Never in 238 years has one fire taken this many Georgia homes. Until a birthday balloon. Here's the detail that should stop you cold. The ground that balloon ignited was not normal forest floor. The Georgia Forestry Commission's own fire danger index, the KBDI, was approaching 700 in South Georgia at the time of ignition. The region was in D4 exceptional drought, the second most severe category on the entire drought scale. Humidity had dropped below 20%. Fire behavior was classified as extreme, with wind-driven runs, long-range spotting, and group torching. Georgia Forestry Commission. The KBDI scale runs from 0 to 800. 0 means the soil is saturated. 800 means the forest is a tinderbox. At 700, the Georgia Forestry Commission classifies fire behavior as extreme. Embers travel farther. Fires accelerate faster. Containment lines that would stop a normal fire are jumped in minutes, but even that number does not tell the full story. According to NIDIS, the National Integrated Drought Information System, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina recorded their driest September through March period since records began in 1895. The watchers. Not since the last bad drought, not since the 1980s, not since the 1930s Dust Bowl, since 1895. And the drought is not regional. Precipitation across the continental United States as a whole was less than 70% of average from January through March 2026. The lowest in records dating back to 1895, according to NOAA. The previous record was set in 1910. CNN, the driest January through March in 131 years of American weather records. That is the ground the balloon landed on. On Tuesday afternoon, April 22nd, Brittany Quinn was doing what parents do on a Tuesday, getting her children ready, moving through the ordinary rhythm of a day in Brantley County. Then the fire trucks came. Authorities told her to evacuate. Quinn grabbed her daughter, her animals, and anything else she could and left the house. About 30 minutes later, she checked her surveillance cameras. The house was in flames. CNN. "My house is gone," she said on video, tearfully. "Now we have nothing to go to but rubbish. How are we going to recover from this? That 30-minute window, from the moment the fire trucks arrived to the moment her home was on fire, is not a failure of the warning system. It is a demonstration of what a KBDI approaching 700 actually means on the ground. Fire that moves fast enough to consume a house before the family that lived in it could reach the end of their street. And Quinn was not alone. Not close to alone. Governor Kemp confirmed, just in the last 30 days, we've had 767 fires in Georgia. That's 85% more than we would normally have on a 5-year average. CBS News, 767 fires in 30 days. In one state, the Highway 82 fire, the one started by the balloon, is the most destructive. But it is not fighting alone. 2 miles to the southwest, 70 miles from Brantley County near the Florida border, a second fire is burning simultaneously. The Pineland Road Fire in Clinch County, 32,541 acres. Started April 18th, 2 days before the balloon, caused by a stray spark from a welding operation that fell into dry vegetation. Wildfire Explorer. 2 fires, 2 separate causes. 1 balloon, 1 welding spark. And the same result, a landscape so primed by drought, so loaded with fuel, that a birthday party and a gate repair were all it took to trigger the most severe wildfire crisis in Georgia's history. Together, these 2 fires have burned more than 55,000 acres and destroyed more than 120 homes. Governor Kemp said it plainly. A little bit of rain is going to help us, but it's not going to get us out of this situation. We're going to be dealing with this for quite a while. CBS News. And here's the thing nobody at that press conference said out loud, but that the fire data says clearly. As of April 24th, 8 million acres had burned nationwide, according to the National Interagency Fire Center. That is nearly double the year-to-date 10-year average, the highest year-to-date total since 2017. Axios, Georgia is not the whole story. Georgia is just the place where America's fire season became impossible to ignore. Here is what is not making headlines. The fuel that is burning in South Georgia right now was delivered by a storm that hit 18 months ago. Hurricane Helene made landfall in September 2024. It killed more than 230 people. It destroyed entire communities in western North Carolina. It was the deadliest hurricane to strike the continental United States since Katrina. And when it tore through South Georgia, it knocked down millions of trees. Those trees were not cleared. They dried out through the fall. They dried further through the winter. They lay on the forest floor of Brantley County and Clinch County through one of the driest September to March stretches in 131 years of recorded weather. And by the time a birthday balloon drifted into a power line on April 20th, 2026, the floor of the Georgia pine forest was not covered in soil and leaves. It was covered in tinder. John Bailey, professor of silviculture and wildland fire at Oregon State University, and author of a major book on the subject, identified 3 factors driving broken wildfire records across the country. An inordinate amount of fuel in the landscape, new homes in fire-prone areas that become fire fuel themselves, and longer, more severe fire seasons. Axios South Georgia had all 3. Helene provided the fuel. A decade of rural development filled the fire-prone zones with homes. And the drought extended the fire season into April, a month when South Georgia has historically had enough moisture to stop a small fire from becoming a historic one. Seth Hawkins, spokesperson for the Georgia Forestry Commission, explained the specific mechanics. Swampy lowlands with thick layers of leaves and woody debris are super flammable when they dry out. CNBC swamps, burning, not pine forest, not dry grassland, swamps. The geography that is supposed to act as a natural fire break, waterlogged, dense, difficult to cross, had dried out enough to sustain active fire. A Georgia Forestry Commission spokesperson said the quiet part out loud. There's no way to stop this fire. They're having to contain the flanks and the back of it, and then, hopefully, we get a change in the weather. Newsweek. No way to stop it. Only contain the edges and wait for the sky to change. Here's the human reality inside the containment lines. Every firefighter in Brantley County is a volunteer. News 4 Jacks 225 deployed for structure protection. All volunteers. People who signed up to protect their community with their personal time, their personal equipment, and their personal risk. People who have been on the fire line for days, through the night, through the smoke, through the heat. And some of them came off the line and drove home to neighborhoods that were no longer there. 2 firefighters I know have lost their homes, said Don Dean, Brantley County Family Connection Executive Director. WTOC TV, 2 firefighters, fighting the fire that burned their own houses, returning to the line the next morning. Georgia Forestry Commission Director Johnny Sabo addressed them directly at a press conference. These fires are not worth losing 1 firefighter, 1 volunteer, 1 responder. We cannot replace a life. CBS News. In northern Florida, they already lost 1. Nassau County Sheriff's Office volunteer firefighter James Kevin Cruz died Thursday evening after suffering a medical emergency while suppressing a brush fire. NPR. He was not killed by the flames. He was killed by the physical toll of fighting them. 1 life confirmed. And the fire in Georgia is still burning. Now zoom all the way out. Because what Georgia is experiencing is not a Georgia story. The April data comes on the heels of a March that had the 3rd worst drought conditions in over 130 years of records, based on NOAA calculations. Only 2 months from the 1934 Dust Bowl were worse. CNN, read that again, the Dust Bowl. The drought that turned Kansas and Oklahoma into a wasteland and drove 5 million Americans from their homes in the 1930s. The drought that became a symbol of ecological catastrophe, so severe it reshaped American agricultural policy for a generation. March 2026 was worse than every Dust Bowl month except 2. Florida Agriculture Commissioner Wilton Simpson described what this means at ground level. We've been in drought for 18 months now all across the state. Florida has got one of the worst fire seasons in maybe the last 30 or 40 years, or it's turning out to be that way. CNBC 18 months. The drought did not start last month. It did not start when Helene passed through. It started before Helene. Helene fell on top of a drought that was already developing, stripped the forests of their green canopy, dropped millions of dead trees onto a floor that was already drying, and then the drought continued for another 18 months on top of that. The NIFC's latest outlook warns of above-normal wildfire potential next month across much of Arizona and New Mexico, plus all of Florida and the southeast Atlantic coast. Axios next month, May. The fire season is not winding down. It is accelerating. So ask yourself 3 questions. Governor Kemp stated that Georgia has seen 767 fires in the last 30 days, 85% above the 5-year average. The most destructive of those fires was ignited by a birthday balloon, a foil balloon that every parent has bought at a party supply store for $3. On $9.99. If a $3, $9.99 balloon can destroy 87 homes and 22,000 acres in a state with 131-year drought records, what does that tell you about the actual source of the danger, and whether preventing the next disaster means stopping the next balloon or addressing what was already on the ground waiting for it? CBS News. The Georgia Forestry Commission's mandatory outdoor burn ban for 91 counties carries the force of law. Violators face significant fines and misdemeanor charges. The ban covers 91 of Georgia's 159 counties. If more than half a state must be legally prohibited from lighting so much as a brush pile, the most routine act of rural land management, because the land itself has become too dangerous to manage that way, what does that say about the condition of the landscape and the length of time it took to reach this point? And if the driest January through March in 131 years of American records just produced the most destructive wildfire in Georgia history, and the National Interagency Fire Center is warning of above-normal fire potential across the entire southeast Atlantic coast next month. And the drought that created these conditions is not over. The Helene debris is still on the forest floor, and the KBDI across South Georgia is still approaching 700. What exactly is the plan for the next birthday balloon? Right now, as you read this, the Highway 82 fire in Brantley County, Georgia is 32% contained. That means 68% of its perimeter is still active. Still burning, still producing the smoke that settled over Glynn County, over Savannah, over Atlanta, still smoldering beneath the dirt on the shoulders of US Highway 82, where blackened trees and charred palmetto fronds line the road for miles in both directions. The Pineland Road Fire in Clinch County is 23% contained, 55,000 acres, or 120 homes, 87 of them from one fire, the most homes lost in Georgia wildfire history. All of them confirmed since April 20th, all of them in 9 days. Brantley County schools remain closed. The Salvation Army is parked on the highway. Volunteer firefighters are coming off 48-hour shifts. 2 of them are coming home to ash. A grave marker in a Brantley County cemetery was photographed last week, half buried in scorched earth, surrounded by destroyed homes, standing upright in the middle of a burn scar. The photograph ran in newspapers across the country. The ground is still drying. The KBDI is still near 700. The red flag warnings are still posted across north and central Georgia. And somewhere in South Georgia tonight, in a pine forest, in a swamp bed, in the Helene debris still piled on the forest floor, a birthday is being celebrated. A balloon is floating somewhere above a power line, and the ground beneath it has been waiting for 18 months.